Everyone, welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host, Café con Leche, for the next hour, inviting you to get social with us online. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, don't forget, follow moi on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. Our first guest has dedicated herself to keeping the beauty of Shakespeare's language alive while also making it accessible and relatable to younger audiences. She is one of the creators behind the captivating production Fools in Love, a modern adaptation of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream with the Open Hydrant Theater Company at the Point CDC. Set in the era of happy days and poodle skirts, Fools in Love takes audiences to the town of West Athens, California, where four teenagers gather at a diner to discuss their romantic tribulations. Here to share more, please welcome Fools in Love creator and Open Hydrant Theater Company co-artistic director, Sarah Rosenberg. Hello and welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I am doing well. I'm thrilled to be a part of your program.
Well, thank you for taking the time and thank you for the wonderful work that you've been doing here in the Bronx. Let's just talk a little bit about your background with regards to your fixation with making sure that Shakespeare is accessible to everyone.
Thank you. There's no better writer, I feel, and yes, we should always look at current literature, but the classics are often ignored because too often educators were presented, say, an author like Shakespeare when they were in school. Read the play, answer a question at your desk. I mean, Shakespeare is meant to be enacted, read aloud, to allow the words to come trippingly off the tongue. And that has been my passion, my joy, ever since I began teaching 57 years ago.
Well, explain to us exactly what people should expect walking into this adaptation that for whatever reason you've chosen to set back into the 50s, yet still use the language of Shakespeare. So I'm trying to visualize what that looks like in and happy days of all times, right? The 50s.
So the 50s were such a great time, I think, for a certain group of people, not always minorities, but the music, as you say, the culture of happy days, if experienced by everybody, it was a joyous time. And I thought, wow, how fun to put A Midsummer Night's Dream at a malt shop in the 50s in Los Angeles with three very separate groups: the teenagers, the mechanicals from the malt shop, and then the fairy world at Griffith Park. So that became my premise, and we were able to run off Broadway for 2.5 years. It was an exciting time. And everyone would always leave the theater saying, okay, that wasn't Shakespeare. I loved it, but it's not Shakespeare. And I go, why isn't it Shakespeare? And they said, because I understood it. And I said, well, all we do really is shelter the language. That means using a little extra facial expressions, body moves to make the language, which was in some cases different, words had different meaning, be so readily understood. But the first thing we do to answer your question, the audience comes in and for 30 minutes, 50s music is playing. We have beach balls flying through the air. We have free tattooing for adults and children. Come on, even grandma would like a little sexy tattoo, maybe on her shoulder, on her wrist. We have children involved in what is stage combat, because I don't want anyone to ever think they're really fighting, because it looks real. So then after our 30 minutes of these types of activities, we have refreshments, we have a lot of little Shakespeare's hidden on our set for little kids to go and see if they can identify them, with little free treats for them. Then the play begins in earnest.
Nice. So it's interactive, and you're kind of, as an educator, the educator that you are, you're educating individuals about the experience aside from the language that they're about to really hone in on, right? And so, I need to ask you this because I myself have participated in some Shakespeare productions in which they do a little code switching, and so I was just wondering, like, is your approach that similar to that, or do you just do straight Shakespeare language?
Well, to explain, every Shakespeare play that I rewrite, recreate, reimagine, if you would, and with music, has a certain time period so that our students especially can adapt their language, their rhythms to a different type of play, because so many of my students over the years have gone on to Broadway, to television, to movies, and I don't want to see them always play thug number 3. I want them to also be able to be a Hermia, a Helena, a Lear. It doesn't matter. So that's very important to me. First of all, what did Shakespeare have in mind? What was his thought process? And how can I play with that enough that I'm very true to the mark?
Got it. What happened to Demetrius? You didn't mention Demetrius. You don't want a Demetrius?
Yeah, I have a handsome Demetrius.
Oh, you have your own Demetrius.
Yes, our cast. I try to cast from the Bronx, especially because that's where our theater company is and where we've been forever. You know, the theater started way back when I was in LA at Hunts Point, when they became a center for hip hop. And all these famous artists were given really a birth at the Point, CDC, Center for Drama and the Community. Their motto is where community and creativity meet. So here we are at this famous place, and they've been so good to us in allowing us to be their theater company. And
So how long have you had the residency there as the Open Hydrant Theater Company?
15 years.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that.
And we're an equity theater company, which is wonderful. The only one ever in the South Bronx. We're an ensemble theater company, but our main function is to get training for young people. They don't have money for training for headshot. They have the talent,
Right.
but why not then go to them if you're going to do a movie of In the Heights?
Right.
On Lin-Manuel, and he does. He came to my school. It was fabulous. So anyway, that's our hope. So someone like Lou, who's a trained photographer, does headshots until we can have students take care of their own, and they've been on TV for a while. We have a whole system where our students also do speech debate and with Shakespeare pieces, and they go on to win college scholarships. So
That's
those
amazing.
students who have matriculated from Yale, from Stanford, from Berkeley, come back, NYU, come back as professionals now because they're working in the industry and they work with our young people. So
That's
It's,
wonderful. That's
it's so
wonderful. Okay,
exciting.
so you know what I love, right? Because that's the educator, and you're actually giving us an example of what the system looks like. Which, brava to how you've designed this wonderful like revolving door of like give and take and come back and show. But we're here actually discussing a festival, and so I want to make sure that we do share with our audience how they can visit the festival. But before we do that, let's share with someone who may be interested in getting their child involved in these productions, and or is there even an age range that a cap? What does that look like?
So we have theater for children who are, say, 7. I don't put a strict age limit on. Some 5-year-olds are ready to be in a play. Well, we're going to be there for them. So this year, How the Grinch Stole Christmas in December will be presented by young people, by our elementary group. Our middle school is working age students working to put on High School Musical. Our high school, aided by our college students or graduates or those working in the industry, are working on Joseph the Technicolor Dreamcoat, or we might do, the play is up for consideration. We have another couple weeks. I will say that Luis Cardenas, my partner, is one who's so very good at coming up with creative plans to keep students in the community and around New York involved and together.
Yeah, no, this is a wonderful, wonderful program you got going on here. And so you just shared how the system works now. How would somebody go around about like registering for it? Do they audition for it? Like, what does that look like?
So we put all audition notices in backstage. Being an equity theater company, we have that ability. We use social media. We'll let the public know. All you have to do is go on Open Hydrant, and we're there with all information. You could also call 646-259-2323, and Luis will guide you to, but just put Open Hydrant at the point and you'll know phone numbers, people. We encourage anyone and everyone. Seriously, you look like an actress in training. If you weren't so famous here, your program, we would snatch you up too. There's no age limit, honestly. But I do make certain we have a Shakespearean play every year. It was a part of our foundation. And what's really exciting this year, well, started last year through a program that Luis had developed at Democracy Prep Schools, where I still teach during the day. They now, for those Democracy Prep Schools that don't have theater, we become their theater company. We push into the schools after school, and then we bring them on the weekends to the point, because I'm very proud of the Bronx. I'm sorry if there were problems in the past, but I've got to tell you, this is a beautiful, thriving area community. I mean, we have the Yankees here. We have one of the best zoos in the country. We have beautiful arboretum. We have an incredible theater. So come, be a part, check us out. You'll never find a better group of adults who not only are superb actors. I have a good 3 that started off Broadway with us 20 years ago. But we have families, actors, the whole community supports the arts. TDF has been so good to us. And so they bring people up to see our plays. That's all.
That's wonderful. I
exciting.
love it. I love it. You know, I originate from the point too. So just so you know, I originate from the point. I was part of that movement when it first settled in the point. And so, but before we go, I want to just mention this title that you just created called the Conquer Your Shakespeare series, and it really resonated with me because I think Shakespeare is intimidating. And so what is it about this title that you feel welcomes people to participate and experience Shakespeare, possibly even for the first time?
Well, first of all, I don't want anyone, not adult, not child, to be afraid of Shakespeare, to understand his time, his language. I kid him with, I mean, a chair is a sculpted wooden resting place. There's not one word there hard to understand, but think of the beauty of that. Or Juliet, she doth hang like a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. Oh my goodness. So let's just explore the language. It's interesting because I'll make this fast, but our students who compete across the country in speech, in competitive acting, always say, well, how come so-and-so gets to do Shakespeare and I have to do, and they'll name something. Well, because sorry, not all of us can do, but next piece you do, I'll make certain. So he's amazing. But when you go to college and you've never been exposed to Shakespeare, or it's just sit and read this play and answer some questions at the end of the act or the scene, that's deadly. And it's because teachers haven't been trained. So what we do, any educator, I don't care if you're principal down to a teacher's aide, the plays are free. And then if you choose to bring your class next year, for $5, we give you, because all the DP kids are out Friday afternoons, we put on our plays in the afternoon or in the evening with adults. And the kids are oftentimes as good. I will never say better, because
Right, right.
but kids seeing adults having a good time. And I could read you reviews from the New York Times who followed us. They were the first one. They came on opening night. I thought, wait a minute, we don't get to have a couple weeks to get this figured out. And I was uptown at that point because the wonderful Mario Frati of 9 Fame on Broadway was asking me to direct one of his plays when our first show went up. And I guess there was this adorable little Black girl in the audience who screamed out, "Now that's comedy." I almost cried at that. And the whole audience erupted in laughter. And the next day, there was the Times review that says, better than anybody, better than Mickey Rooney, better than Callista Flockhart, better than Peter Brook. What are you talking about? And went on, and some of our very original people are now, like a Ryan Knowles. This man was playing the part of Bottom. Last year, 2 years ago, this pandemic has me a little crazy.
It's okay. And I love that you're sharing these stories, and I hope that our audience is getting it. And I know that you're so passionate about it. I could sit here and listen to you all day, but we don't have very much time left. And I'm sorry that I even interrupted you, because it's very clear that you're very passionate about what you're doing. And I really appreciate you sharing all these success stories, and that you continue to recreate and reimagine new ways to touch the next generation and the next generation.
Oh, well, we invite everybody to come be part of the magic. And I defy anyone to tell me that they didn't have a wonderful time. So thank you, everyone.
And thank you for bringing it to our audience, everyone. Sarah Rosenberg, Open Hydrant Theater Company co-artistic director, and Fools in Love creator. Once again, Fools in Love, the 1950s reimagining of Williams Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, is running now through August 27th with Open Hydrant Theater at the Point CDC, which is located at 940 Garrison Avenue in the Bronx, New York. And for info and tickets, you can visit eventbrite.com. And for more information on Open Hydrant Theater, visit openhydrant.com. All right,
You
stay
were
tuned. There's more
amazing. Thank you.
return.
Thank you.
There's more open when we return. Don't go anywhere. Thank you, Sarah.